A Dark Lord of the Sith was introduced to us in Star Wars Unlimited Set 5 Legends of the Force, and his name is Darth Revan. Darth Revan is a very popular character in Star Wars lore, pre-canon, post-canon, whatever you want to call it specifically, canon in all of our hearts, because he stems from one of the greatest Star Wars games of all time, Knights of the Republic. And if you're like me and you've played a bunch of Star Wars games, you'll also recognize him from Star Wars The Old Republic, where he is kind of insane. But beyond all of that, Revan is a popular character because he meshes a lot of different styles of gameplay in KOTOR that a lot of people get to pick whatever they want to play, and the opportunity to actually play a character in canon that you make and do what you want yourself with him or her, depending on how you choose to play the game, gives people a lot of agency in what they want to see in a character. So with set 5, we got our first ever villainy only leader, and with that restricts the way that you can deck build with Darth Revan in Star Wars Unlimited due to aspect penalties. So today, what I'm going to be going through is 4 different decks, each with the same core, but a different set of cards around them based upon the aspect that you're using on your base. So, HARK! Join me today as I go through these decks and showcase to you the way that I would build them, some opportunities that you can use with each deck, and a couple of core strategies that I believe will maintain Revan's strength throughout the majority of the game that you will play in Star Wars Unlimited. So we're going to kick ourselves off here with Revan Blue. So here's the whole list for Revan Blue. Links to all 4 of these decks will be in the description below, so you can copy them, do whatever you want with them, and have some fun with it. Before we get through the whole deck, I'm actually going to showcase to you some of the cards that are going to be in each of these decks as a core for the experience that I think would be at least the coolest for Darth Revan. These are not necessarily competitive decks. They might be, depending on how skilled you can play the game with them, but ideally it's a way to get Revan to the table, a decent chance at winning against a wide variety of decks, and gives you a strong game plan in order to go into playing the game of Star Wars Unlimited, bare minimum at a casual fun level. So core wise, in each of these decks, you're going to see the 2-drop Kylo, you're going to see the 2-drop Consumed by the Dark Side, 2-drop Darth Revan's lightsaber, 4-drop Darth Tyrannus, 4-drop Scimitar, 5-drop Darth Malak, 7-drop the Sun. And the reason why is, first of all, the Sun is super dope. If you maintain the Force, so all of these decks will be Force decks, each of your friendly units will get +2/+0. This meshes well with Revan's ability, meaning that you can kill units without having to worry too much about the amount of damage that you need to take over them. And all of your units, not just Force units, get that bonus when you're at that high level with the Sun, so they can continue to get those experience tokens with Revan on either side. Consumed by the Dark Side allows you to get some extra experience bonus onto your units and smash into opponents' units to be able to get more experience tokens. It also is a 2-card combo to turn on your Scimitar to make it a space powerhouse. Darth Tyrannus is a very good shielded ambush. As long as you have the Force, you drop that shielded unit, you ambush into something, you defeat it, and then you get an experience token, so he becomes a 5/4 on the turn he comes in. Revan's lightsabers are great for Revan. They're also great for Malak, giving you +2/+2 for 2, and if your unit is a Sith, which a lot of units in each of these decks will at least attempt to be, you will have grit, so the more damage they take, the higher damage they have. Malak is pretty much self-explanatory. Kylo Ren is one of your early game Force units. Now, he's not impressive. He's only a 2/3 overwhelm, but if you do have the Force and you throw an upgrade on him, which each of these decks should have plenty of upgrades associated with them, especially with those Revan lightsabers, you can draw a card, and if you keep stacking upgrades, you can continue drawing cards so long as you have the Force. Blue Revan, all you need is a Force base. Pick whichever one you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just picking the 28 health base for each of these. We're starting off with 2 Inferno 4s, 3 Karis, 3 Kylo Rens, and the 3 Night Sister Warriors here as our 2-drop units. Each of these will do something for you. The Night Sister and the Inferno 4 allow you to draw or manipulate your deck in some form or fashion. Karis allows you to try to kill a unit with that -2/2, but because she's a 2/4, she will survive attacks much better than other units will be able to. And then Kylo Ren is the previous thing. Consumed by the Dark Side is a card that I really, really like in general, and I want to do a lot with, because it does give you that opportunity, much like the Page Tico ability from set 4, to give your unit experience tokens at the risk of taking damage. But because you're gaining experience tokens, you're not technically losing overall health, you're just gaining permanent power as a result. We do have 2 copies of Kylo Ren's lightsaber, a great opportunity for Kylo Ren to not get exhausted by enemy card abilities with that. You only get +1, +3, but it does give you a bigger body, which means that you can attack into more units, which means you get more experience tokens with Revan's ability. 3 cost supremacy tie special forces in space. That's your Space Sentinel. It's going to help you a lot. Power of the Dark Side, obvious card is obvious. We have constructed lightsaber. This is not in each deck, but if you do like it, you can put this in any of the decks you choose to build if you're trying to go upgrade heavy. A lot of your units are going to be villainy, so you're going to be using that raid 2, making your attacks +4, +3 with the saber. We talked about Tyrannus, we talked about the Scimitar. Talzin's Assassin, much like Karis, is going to give you that opportunity to kill units with the -3/-3 if you have the Force token, so you can drop that down on the board. Always 2 is a fun card that I think goes really well with this strategy of throwing down 2 Sith and then clearing out the rest of your units. Make sure you use them as best you can, then you get your Always 2, because you pick your 2 friendly, unique Sith units, you go 2 shields, 2 experience tokens, and then defeat all of your other units, and then you've got 2 units that are packed up with some cool stuff. Obviously, they're vulnerable to all kinds of removal and everything else that exists in the game. That's something you just have to deal with. You just have to deal with it. Malak is a great opportunity. A great fun combo here is on your 5 turn, you can throw Malak down. He has that ability for the when played, if you have a Sith leader, which is what Revan is, he gets to come into play ready. He can attack into a unit, do the overall damage if there's any extra damage left over. Get that experience token. You can flip Revan, ram him into something else to get that, and on your next turn, always 2 both of them. So that way you can clear out any of your other units, utilize them to smash into your opponent's units or get some of that base damage advantage, and then just have Revan and Malak as your Always 2 for a really neat thematic experience that Star Wars does really need in the game. Always 2, great opportunity to do that. No glory only results. Obvious card is obvious. We have the Sun here because we love that power buff. Once you do use your Always 2, or if you have the board presence where you don't need that, he's going to give all of your units +2/+0 if you have the Force. Darth Sidious is a nice little board clearing opportunity. He's also a 6/8 for 8 with Restore 2. And Supreme Leader Snoke, super good card. Should be in every blue Force deck. Basically should be in every blue villainy deck because he has such a large presence on the battlefield. And that is your 50 card list. We're not going to have any sideboards for any of these because some of them took a little bit of opportunity for us to actually get cards into the main deck to fill out a deck here. But this is where I think blue could at least have a starting game plan using some very good staple cards like the Supremacy Tie, Power of the Dark Side, No Glory Only Results, Supreme Leader Snoke, using some new cards that have had some very good success in decks, Karis, Warrior, Talzin's Assassin, and then just trying to build off of having your units be able to kill other units to be able to then attack your opponent's base in the next phase and do a lot of that sustained damage over time. Hopefully winning before you need to drop Snoke or the Sun, but if not, your Revan flip turn with Malak is gonna be a banger. Next up, we've got Green Revan. This is a little bit more difficult just because there's not a lot of really good Force units that can be used in green, especially green villainy. It seems like green heroism got a lot of the earlier units that are more handy for this, but we have all of our staples for the core here. We'll go over the choices of the non-staples that are in this deck. We have Niman Strike here, attack with a Force unit even if it's exhausted, +1/+0, and can't attack bases for this attack. So you can start with a base attack, then use Niman Strike to attack into a unit with that +1 to help guarantee the kill there. Revan can give you the experience token so you can get more damage in turns in the future, and it does give you that opportunity to get that extra kill if you weren't able to get that before. Exegol Patroller is a decent unit in space. 3/1 with Overwhelm. It's a Sith unit. It gives you the ability to do stuff that's Sithy, although there isn't a whole lot in here that does attach to that. Feel free to change this out for something that's better. Gifted Urchin. It's a low attack Force unit. It's basically designed just to get you that Force in the first round. We do have the Kylo. Outland Tie Vanguard here meshes with Revan's ability to give out experience tokens because you can play the Outland Tie Vanguard to give any of your 3 cost or less units, which is the Outer Rim Mystic, the Vane, the Exegol Patroller, Gifted Urchin, Kylo Ren, and the Sith Legionnaire, which can give you some benefits there to attack into things you wouldn't have been able to otherwise survive. And then it's also a space unit, and those things gathering up can really mess up your opponent's strategy. We have the Sith Legionnaire, which is quite good. As long as you control another villainy unit, this thing's going to get a pump that your opponent's also not expecting. It's a 2/2 without, but with it, potentially with an Outland Tie Vanguard token, you can actually do a lot of damage based upon what's going on. Vane is an interesting tech here because he's not generating the Force for you as an Imperial Sith official. But if you do get those tokens from Revan on units that you know are going to die soon, you can Vane that token onto something else and make it so that that thing can do whatever damage you want to do and not worry about losing the token that you spent the effort to get with Revan's ability. Consumed by the dark side, obvious, the core card from before, Revan's lightsaber. Outer Rim Mystic is probably one of your better Force enablers because it's a 3-cost 2/6. It's a draft card. It's a chaff card, but 6 health on 3 is pretty difficult to get through. It is Force, so you can at least generate that Force on your 4 resource round, which can allow you to do some other things. We're running 3 constructed lightsabers in here because those are actually quite good on the Kylo Ren. Tyrannus is here, Scimitar is here, Malak is here, Overwhelming Barrage, obvious staple is obvious. We have Craving Power here, which a lot of people do like. I'm not a huge fan of it. However, being able to attach a +2/+2 onto a unit and then when played, dealing its whole power packet in damage to another unit can help you clear a problem issue on the board or weaken something so that way you can finish it off with that same unit or a different unit and get an experience token on it with Darth Revan. Darth Vader commanding the First Legion, great card. Ambush triggers Revan's ability very easily. Lots of good stuff that's there, and it throws an additional villainy card on your board that costs 3 or less. And then we have the Sun at the finishing of your top end, because if you have the Force and you have the Sun, everything of yours gets +2 power. Not a lot to go over here. It's a lot of obvious strategies. It's also a little bit more difficult to build Green Revan in this manner because there are specific things you're looking for. You could potentially bypass the Force mechanic entirely and try a completely different strategy, but having the Kylo Ren available to you, having the Tyrannus available to you, those things are going to be able to at least utilize the Force tokens that you're getting, and you're spending them to get benefits based upon drawing cards, ambushing. I think Darth Tyrannus with the Force token is one of the best combos you can do in the Revan deck outside of Malak and Revan themselves, which of course makes sense because they should do well together. And that is Green Revan. Now, this is the Revan deck I'm actually most excited about, and the one that I heavily considered building myself, which I might still do after this video is done to take it with me to the GC if I can potentially pick up the extra Malak that's necessary. There's a lot of interesting combos in here that you can do, but I think this is the best way to play Revan, regardless of presenting 4 options to you. This is obviously just a video to get you an idea on what you want to build for yourself. But without any further ado, we have Witch of the Mist, easy, usable card to be able to throw into the game, into the board. You can throw the Witch of the Mist and then also a Sith Holocron onto it to be able to get that extra power. She becomes a 2/4 for 2, which is the same thing as a lot of the other early game units like HK-47 at the 2 cost with the new standard coming through with LOF. And hidden means it can't be attacked the turn it comes out. So you get to protect yourself a little bit. 2 moves might be too much, but it is an option available to you. Force Lightning, great card. If you have a Force unit on the board, you can knock something out by spending a bunch of resources. Otherwise, you're just negating the effects of a unit, which can be still pretty useful. Sith Holocron, very good card here, attaching to a Force unit. Gives you +1/+1 for 1, but you can damage other things in order to be able to give yourself plus additional power for an attack, which can help trigger Revan's ability to gain those experience tokens when your friendly unit defeats a unit. Acolyte of the Beyond. This is another side of the Force that has an issue gaining the Force early on. However, Acolyte of the Beyond is a Sith unit, so it matches well with Revan's lightsabers, but it also, on attack, gains you the Force, and when defeated, gains you the Force. So there's a lot of power here of being able to gain the Force with this unit that wouldn't necessarily require you to use Fortress Vader. You could potentially use the Temple of Malachor, Temple of Destruction on Malachor, but right now we're sticking with the 28s. Acolyte of Beyond is a key card in this deck to be able to generate that Force token. HK-47, Die Meatbag, auto card has to be included in this deck because he's Revan's assassin droid. You know, there's other things that we've kept in this deck, the Malak, the lightsabers that are on brand, on theme with what we've got. HK-47, top tip tier of the theme for this deck. You know what he does. He's really good. Kylo, consumed by the dark side. Force Choke gives you the opportunity to kill some opposing units or also soften them up in case you need to be able to Revan them later on. We have Darth Maul's lightsaber, which is going to combo with the 2 Mauls that we have. We'll talk about that in just a second. Fallen Lightsaber, great upgrade for Kylo Ren. Turns his weakly little 2/3 body into a 5/6, which is definitely capable of knocking out opposing units. And with that Overwhelm, you're also able to do that extra damage because Kylo Ren is a Force unit. And if you have the Force, you're able to draw that card, and Kylo Ren just becomes a massive monstrosity that it takes a lot of effort for your opponents to be able to knock out. But remember, Witch of the Mist, also a force unit. So you can throw that onto her and she can still put in some work with that lightsaber becoming a 2/6 that allows you to do that extra damage across the board. So don't leave that out. Darth Revan, Scimitar, obvious cards are obvious. Death Field, again, thematic card. We're only using 2 of these because it is an expensive event, but it does allow you to blanket soften up your opponent's units as Death Field would in the game. And then if you have a force unit, which you do have a ton, you get the draw card so it refills itself. We have Malak here. In space, we've got Ruthless Raider, very good space card. When played, deal 2 damage to a base and 2 damage to a unit. When defeated, yada yada blah blah. We have the Sun, +2/+0. Ruthless Raider softens up stuff. The Sun gives you the extra power bonus, and then 2 Emperor Palpatines here with Overwhelm and also 6 damage across the board. Another board softening ability to be able to get those experience tokens with Revan. The most interesting combo here, though, is going to be the Darth Maul with Darth Maul's lightsaber. Now, obviously, you're playing Darth Maul on 5. If you're going to be using this combo, he's a 5/6, so he's going to be able to survive. On your next turn, using Maul's lightsaber, which we only have 1, turns him from a 5/6 into a 9/8 that attacks 2 units separately. You're only going to be able to trigger the experience token once, but those 2 units are going to be killed with the same power as 1 unit would. And it's that overwhelm that you do get from the Maul's lightsaber, in addition to the attack that you get while playing it, allows you to do a ton of damage to your opponents and bypasses the restriction of not being able to attack bases, because you don't want to attack bases. You want to attack units. You could up the Maul's to 3 and the Maul's lightsaber to 3, dropping some fallen lightsabers and, like, let's say the Emperor Palpatine. But it's not a strategy that I want to rely on too heavily. Being able to get Maul on the board on 5 and have him survive is already going to be tough enough. Being able to get him on the board, have him survive, have you have initiative in the next round is also going to be tough. But Maul's lightsaber is a 3 cost, giving you +4/+2 is going to be pretty useful in any circumstance, giving that 4 power to get the extra power to get you over those thresholds, to defeat enemy units and be able to get those experience tokens. That's what these decks are trying to do, is destroy enemy units. And I think this has the best capacity because of all the damage you can do with the different things that are available to you, the fallen lightsabers, the Tyrannus attacks, the death fields, the Darth Mauls into things with the lightsaber, 2 attacks, being able to knock out at least 1 thing, the Ruthless Raider being able to do a damage to a unit, Emperor Palpatine able to spread his damage across units. This is the best version of the deck, not necessarily these specific cards. I'm sure somebody could come along with something better, but I think Red Revan is the best way to play Darth Revan in Star Wars Unlimited. And our last build here is going to be Revan Yellow. This gets to use some units that I like a lot. It does some interesting things with your builds and still gives you the opportunity to use a couple of Sith units. So your Revan's lightsabers aren't going to be as strong, but they can still be used quite effectively as a +2/+2 2-cost upgrade. So we're starting off with Snapshot Reflexes, great upgrade. Attach that to Kylo Ren. It allows them to attack. You get the draw card if you have the Force, all this other lovely fun stuff. +1/+1. Deceptive Shade is an interesting card because it's a 2-cost Sith unit. You can attach the lightsabers to it. If you can build up some experience tokens, that might be an interesting strategy of a lower cost unit utilizing the Revan's lightsabers to knock something out. But when defeated, so if you slam this into something and it dies, the next unit you play this phase gets ambushed, which you do already have a few ambushers. But being able to set up your Deceptive Shade dying, giving your Shin-Hati ambush, could be pretty significant. Next, we have the Kylo Ren. We have 3 Mysterious Hermits. We need those low-cost Force units. This is an ambush, so the turn it comes into play, you're gaining the Force, which is quite good. We've got Breaking In for attacks, Consumed by the Dark Side for the power buff with the experience tokens and the damage. Surprise Strike, again, more attacks, being able to kill units or get that damage into base. We got the Revan's lightsabers. Jetpacks are very good upgrades because you can keep them smuggled for a later turn +2 power and a shield, but early on throwing that onto your Kylo Ren, giving him the +2 power and the initial shield, it allows him to attack into something without taking damage back, overwhelming, getting experience token from Darth Revan, and you get to draw the card because it is an upgrade that you played on it. One of our only space units in this deck is going to be the Contracted Jumpmaster, and the reason why this is in here is because we want something to defend the base from damage. We did that with the blue by having the Tide Supremacy. We didn't really have much support with space in terms of the green, but we had the Exegol Patroller and the Outland TIE Vanguard. We had the Ruthless Raider working with us, getting a later game space unit, but having the Contracted Jumpmaster on 3, giving us a 2/4 Sentinel in space, is going to slow down the space decks. hopefully enough so that you can get your ground forces going and start overwhelming your opponents, and there's nothing they can do about it. 3 copies of Shin Hati, 4/2 hidden shielded, excellent unit. We have the Darth Tyrannus here, which we've talked about before. We have his other form, Dooku, which is a 5/4 hidden. When played, your hidden units get to hide again, which is a great combination with the Shin Hati and the Baylan Skull. This is not something you necessarily have to use. It's something that I'm throwing in there because I think it's worthwhile. It does give you that 5 power on 4. It is hidden, so it can't be attacked. It can't protect Shin Hati, so she can survive another turn after she's done her stuff. Use it at your will. We've got a scimitar. We have the Baylan Skull here. And one of the reasons why Baylan Skull, I think, is one of the better cards in this deck is while his stats are a little bit lacking, 5 cost 5/5, he has hidden, so he can't be attacked, and he can bounce one of your units back in order to be able to do some extra stuff again. So you can bounce your ambushing mysterious hermit to be able to get the force back after you do that. You can bounce your Shin Hati to be able to replay her with the hidden and the shielded. Dooku to give your other cards the hidden bonus once again. Theoretically, if you really wanted to, you could bounce the Tyrannus back to be able to get the shield, but you wouldn't have the force for the ambush because Baylan Skull spends it. But the basic combo you're going to be using is either Baylan's bouncing Shin Hati or he is bouncing Dooku. So do with that as you will. And then our top end here is Malak and the Sun. Cards that we've talked about before, they're just very good. And this is the yellow version of the deck that is a little bit more focused on getting those big power attacks with the jetpack, the surprise strike, the breaking in. You can run the hotshot blaster, and potentially if you don't like the jetpacks, I would recommend switching out the jetpacks to the hotshot blasters. I just like the idea of having the 2-cost jetpack that you can put onto the Kylo Ren or the 4-cost later while you establish yourself, and you can surprise your opponent with that 2 power plus the shield, which can potentially be difficult to overcome depending on the deck. Lots of fun stuff here. This is a quicker deck. It does rely a little bit more on making sure that you can get your Kylo or your Mysterious Hermit to stick, or at least your Shin Hati to be able to knock something out, to gain that force to be able to use it for things like Tyrannus or Baylan Skull, or generate the force to get the extra power bonus for the Sun. But lots of interesting stuff there associated with what we've got. I really do just want to see somebody throw Darth Revan down, throw Revan's lightsabers on him, and just absolutely wreck a fool left and right, or throw the Consumed by the Dark Side on the Scimitar to launch an 8-power attack onto an opponent that's not expecting that much damage to come at them in space. Lots of fun things you can do with these decks, and these are all options. Again, links in the description below to each of these decks as presented as they are, so that way you can copy them and make changes and play Darth Revan to your enjoyment as much as you can. So there you have it. 4 decks featuring every aspect combination outside of the meme deck of Darth Revan Lake Country, which is not viable. Do not try that. Don't do it. But you have those options of blue, green, red, and yellow. My preference is the red deck. I think it has the best opportunity. The yellow deck does seem pretty spicy, and then the blue deck does seem very control-y. Green, I think, actually is the weakest of the combination, but if you can get that overwhelming barrage to stick, you have some very interesting stuff available to you with being able to get those Revan plays going. But I think Revan's really cool. I think there's some interesting stuff to go there. After having talked about and made this video, I'm probably gonna just quickly build the Revan Red deck that I had there, maybe a couple of changes here and there. If you have any suggestions or things you might think could be better in any of these decks, leave a comment down below stating what you think might be an interesting choice. Beyond that, that's all I have for today. Try to make this not as short as possible, but shorter than other deck build videos that I've done before. There was 4 decks out there, but they were pretty easy to build, minus the green one, just because there was so much work to have to put into that deck. There you are. I hope you enjoyed this deck build video. Again, links below to all these decks. Copy them, run them, have as much fun as you want to have with those decks. Lots of interesting stuff moving forward. Like this video, comment down below what your favorite deck is, how you want to use Revan moving forward. If you have any better choices of what you would run in these decks, any advice is always welcome, because there might be somebody watching this video who wants to build Revan and needs that extra little tidbit of information beyond what I provided here. But subscribe to the Star Wars Unlimited channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll be back again here soon. I'll see you in the next one, and I will see you in the stars.